Hello and welcome to another episode of Canada Unpacked. Yay! Where we unpack real Canadian immigration stories and programs. Today is going to be a very popular episode because the DMs, the emails, the comments are just nonstop, and it's all about citizenship by descent, which is really exciting. I'm Barbara. I'm joined by my co-host Deandra. How are you, Deandra?
I am good, ready to talk about this because this is a hot topic right now. The bill has just come into force, and everybody is, like you said, the DMs and the emails are nonstop. So I'm excited to tackle this topic and dive into it.
Yeah, we're gonna explain a little bit and then go through some of the frequently asked questions we've had in the last 4 weeks, basically. This is like 4 or 5 weeks old, essentially.
Yeah.
So maybe Deandra, you can start by just explaining what happened in December. Like, what was the big change that all of a sudden, this many people used to be eligible, and now this many people are eligible to essentially get citizenship right away in Canada?
That's pretty much exactly what happened. So there's been rumblings about this for a while, but officially it came into force on December 15th, 2025, Bill C-3, and it addresses Canadian citizenship by descent. So that means if you had a family, if you were born to a Canadian citizen somewhere else, Bill C-3 pretty much removed that limit for a lot of people that were born abroad to Canadian citizens before it came into force on December 15th. They would have been Canadian citizens if not for previous rules, like the first generation limit, where only the first generation born abroad to a Canadian would inherit the citizenship. So it removed those types of limitations. And basically now, if you can trace back your heritage to Canada, you might be eligible to be a citizen.
Yeah. So, yeah, basically, yeah. In a nutshell, it's like it used to be if you have a parent who was Canadian, maybe you were a citizen. But now it's like if you got a great grandparent or a great 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 grandparent, they essentially abolished the first generation limit, and we're like, it's a free for all now. But there's some caveats, right? A big one is that you have to prove it, and it's pretty dang hard to prove like 5 generations. So there's going to be a bit of a almost like a limit just from practicality on this.
Yes.
But yeah, I'll start with the first questions from viewers. Question: Am I now automatically a Canadian citizen because of Bill C-3? Like, if I do have the lineage, is it automatic? Do I go right for the passport?
Yes and no. It depends. So Bill C-3 is addressing this in a couple of ways, right? You're automatically a citizen if you were born before December 15th, 2025. There's some rules that for, children that are born to Canadians abroad after December 15th, 2025. Basically, it's not a brand new application to become Canadian. It's recognizing that you already are because this law has changed. So in many cases, yes, you'll automatically become a citizen if you were going to be a citizen, if not for the old rules.
Yeah.
That sounds really confusing.
Yeah, you are if you were.
Exactly. If under the old rules you would have been limited by the first generation limit, let's say, you would not have been considered a Canadian citizen. But if those rules were not in place, you would have been, then you're automatically a citizen.
Yes, there's still paperwork as though, am I right? That you essentially you're not applying to be a citizen. You are applying for the government to confirm, like, hey, here's my lineage. Can you absolutely confirm I am a citizen? They say yes. Once they say yes, then you can get the passport. So there is like a step in between you actually having a
Yeah.
Canadian passport in your hand. It's basically the government has to confirm lineage.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
you have to provide the documents of that lineage, which is the sticking point here.
That's right. Yeah. So, like you were saying earlier, like a lot of people view this as a free for all, but it's not because there are some really concrete steps. And for many people, that lineage, that one Canadian citizen in that family line, maybe like 5 or 6 generations before, right? So there's a lot of legwork that you're gonna have to do. So your next step, if you looked at Bill C-3 and all of the changes that were made, and you think you might be a Canadian citizen, your next step is going to be to apply for a proof of citizenship, right? So you need to trace back that lineage. And like Barbara was saying, the onus is on you to provide evidence. IRCC is not going to go looking for your lineage documentation for you. You got to do some legwork here. You've got to look up birth certificates, marriage certificates, all of these things to trace back each person in the lineage up to you, right? And prove that connection. So there's a lot of documentation that's going to be needed as evidence. So I don't want anybody to go into this thinking like, yay, my day has come. I'm automatically a Canadian citizen. There's nothing to do. Proceed to Canada. No, that is not the case. There's an application process to apply for proof of citizenship. And then once you have that proof in hand, you can apply for a Canadian passport.
Mm-hmm. I know we were chatting earlier. There's a few different podcasts and info on this already. Even though it's only basically 4 or 5 weeks old, people are estimating that there's going to be a lot, perhaps even in the millions, in terms of people that are potentially eligible for this. So I really think people who get it straight out the gate in terms of getting their paperwork in order and submitting the application to have the government confirm absolutely you are in fact a Canadian citizen, like please apply for your passport, they're going to benefit as opposed to someone who waits maybe a year or two. I could see the processing time just be going up and up and up and up for that type of application. So doing it early on and understanding what help can you get. So you can hire a consultant or a lawyer who can help with the putting the package together. However, we are not qualified. We're not, historians. We're not qualified to dig up the archives of your lineage. I have had people who do it themselves, and so they're applying to different government bodies and entities, sometimes even religious bodies for like baptismal certificates if it's like very far back. Or I even had a client hire a historian, like I said. So the historian was getting the lineage documentation, and then a consultant can help you with the immigration legal documentation that you need to submit.
That's right. Yeah, in general, you'd need to do the lineage work yourself, or like you said, hire an expert. Stay in your zone of genius and hire an expert. If you have connections or can look up a historian here in Canada that will trace back that lineage for you, great. That's probably your best option if you need help to do this. If the lineage needs to be traced back that far, right? That's probably your best option to do that. Your immigration consultant or immigration lawyer comes in when you have your lineage already traced and you're ready to like take that next step and apply for the proof of citizenship. That is when you bring your immigration consultant in. Also before, to ask questions. Well, what do I need for proof? What can I provide? What if I don't have my great-great-great-grandfather's birth certificate? How can I find that? An immigration consultant can absolutely do a consultation with you, let you know what IRCC is looking for as proof, right? That's going to be the key. You can't do that legwork until you know exactly what it is you need to look for. So my process would be have a consultation with an immigration consultant or an immigration lawyer. Find out what it is you need to provide IRCC to prove your lineage, and then you do your legwork. And if you want full representation, you come back to that immigration consultant or lawyer and let them help you out with the forms. Now, this is a great interval to like let you guys know a little bit extra work you're gonna have to do, because this application is a paper application. Yes, I know it's 2026 and we are not used to doing anything on paper anymore, but this particular application is a paper-based process, so you have to prepare for that as well. So it's a lot of legwork, and when you do involve an immigration consultant, or even if you do it on your own, you have to apply the right way or the process is going to be that much longer, right? So remember that this is a paper-based application, not online, and you'll have to account for that as well. Account for times for mailing and courier processing and getting it to where it needs to be. Keep that in mind as you go through the process. It's not going to be quick, and it's going to get longer as the time goes by, right? Like you said, the first set of people that take advantage of this are probably going to be in a sweet spot. If you wait a year or two, the processing times are going to be probably through the roof.
Yeah, absolutely. Because before this, it was a really small niche group. Like it was really if you had a parent who was Canadian and you were born abroad, you could do the grant of citizenship. So very small. I think I've had one. I want one for sure in the last 10 years. If more than that, less than like, how many fingers you have on your hand,
Yeah.
essentially. Like just because it's so like there
It's
just
rare.
literally aren't people who qualify for it. But now that's completely just opened the floodgates. So I think getting in quick and
Yeah.
early is absolutely to your advantage.
Yeah.
Another thing with paper applications is sometimes a certain elements need to be original. And sometimes they'll take a copy, sometimes they want a certified copy. So those little nuances will count because if you, with a paper application, when you mail it in, if something's wrong or missing, they take the whole application and mail it back to you and just
Oh,
say, start again, please. And that can take with paper, with the mailing and everything. I mean, sometimes it's like 3 months, and all of a
yeah.
sudden you've got this giant package of paper on your doorstep again, being like, oh God, again, no. So I think it'll be a lot of people because if you qualify, you qualify. If the proof is there, it's substantial, like you qualify. But if you miss a signature or you've got an old form or you did a photocopy instead of an original document, they will send the whole package back to you and you have to start again.
Yeah. So it can be very costly and it can be time consuming. And I say costly not because of the processing fees for it or anything, but mailing. Like you're not going to want to send your great grandfather's original birth certificate in regular mail, right? You're going to want to pay like a courier service, maybe have insurance on that so you don't lose original documents. And you really don't want to take a chance when you spent that much money to send the paper application in. You don't want to take a chance that it's going to get lost somewhere or anything like that. So it's definitely a process. It's definitely
Yeah.
going to be a process that will be frustrating if you don't put your ducks in a row from the beginning.
Yeah, another like thought that came to me as you were saying that too, like, okay, there is a bit of a cost to this, or you're gonna want a courier, or maybe you need to pay for original documents or translations. I had one
Yes.
person come to me and said all their family was from Quebec, but they have no
Yeah.
French, and so they need a French speaking, historian or translator or consultant, and so that kind of changes things up too. But if
Yes.
you compare that to the time and cost and energy it is to apply to be a permanent resident and then years later apply to be a citizen, because if you go the traditional immigration route, it's years until you actually can get to the citizenship stage. And that is years of your life, a lot of money, and a lot of work and time and stress. This lets you jump to like the very last stage of the immigration
Straight to
journey,
the
which is
end
just
game.
like, can you just confirm I'm a citizen so I can get my passport, please? And so the amount of money you spend on this is pennies compared to if you had to go the traditional immigration route.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So it's even more important to not make the process cost more than it has to, right? Like we're already getting kind of a push to the finish line. It's even more important to just like have everything done correctly the first time so that when you mail that completed application package off, that's the first and only time you have to do it.
Yeah,
One
absolutely.
and done.
Easy peasy.
Yeah.
I love it. So I think we'll leave it there today. Just very short and simple. Just wanting to essentially explain to our viewers that, yeah, if you had a Canadian parent, you could have, been in the bullseye, but now it's opened up. So, and I've definitely had consultations where in it someone said, oh, I have a grandparent, a great grandparent, or they're like, they know at some point someone was in Canada. And in those consultations pre this bill dropping, I just said, that doesn't help anything. Unfortunately, it helps nothing. But now it could help. It could very much help. So, everyone out there who thinks they may have some Canadian lineage, absolutely, I would say the first step would be book a consultation with someone. I know Deandra's taking this on and will be specializing in citizenship by descent. So,
Yes.
highly recommend. We'll put all of Deandra's links in the description box. And
Okay.
yeah, so that's always my recommendation for immigration, period, because there's a lot of noise about this online, but your personal requirements and personal document checklist will be unique to you. So you want to have a one-on-one session, and then you know exactly what you need to do moving forward.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's always best to tackle those questions that you're not quite sure of, right? Like there's always that one little thing that if I had just asked somebody before I did this, I wouldn't have been refused, right? So always the best bet with nuanced immigration programs like this to have a conversation with a consultation. And like Barbara said, all of my links, booking links, will be in the description box. If you have questions, inquiries, you can find a contact form on our website, www.harbourcaveimmigration.com, and everything will be in the description box as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can just jump right into that. And like, what best wishes, warmest regards. Like, I mean, this is pretty dang cool. I don't think ever in my career there's just all of a sudden been like, hey, there's this really sweet program that lets you literally skip ahead to the finish line.
It
So
honestly is. I went through the traditional pathway to become a citizen of Canada, and like you said, it's very costly. It's very time consuming. Even like, can I tell you my one most hated thing about my journey to citizenship is filling out that history, that 10-year history. I'm like,
it's 5 years for citizenship, unless they make changes, because now I'm sure they're going to expect like just, a massive influx of these applications. So I could see them making tweaks to like the checklist
as
or
they
some
go.
forms. So be
Yeah.
mindful of that too. If you use an old checklist or an outdated form, that was also a reason for IRCC to send your application back to you. So I'm constantly checking forms when they're updated by the government. So there's all these little nuances that only someone working in the field would know to do. I
Yeah.
feel like if I was doing anything government related and I got a form, I'd be like, okay, this is it. I'm going to take, 2, 3 weeks to fill out this form and then I'll send it in. But if it got updated in the meantime, you have to start again. So you have to like
What
check
if
the
it got
form, like
updated?
the day you want to submit, like go check those forms again. They might be updated.
Yeah, honestly, there might be something changing. It's
Yeah.
true. And IRCC doesn't like scream these things from the rooftops, right? Like they don't say, hey, guess what? We changed the document checklist for PR,
It's
non-express entry
so
applicants.
quiet. There's
Super
no
quiet.
announcement. You have to literally go and download the form and check the tiny little date in the bottom left corner of the form. Like that's
Oh, yeah.
how I find out.
Yeah, exactly. I stand by. I said what I said. That 10-year history for PR application was horrible. So if you can jump to the finish line, this is perfect.
This is gold. This is gold. So
Yeah.
best of luck to everyone. I can't wait to hear more. Like the DMs, like I said, are already flooding, and it's just been a lot of people really excited and just having kind of their hearts full of like, oh my God, this is it. Like this means so much to me. Like it's really opened up a beautiful path for me. So I'm excited for everyone. And like I said, just go to Deandra. Deandra is specializing in citizenship by descent and will be able to guide you through this process and help you too, right? If you just have to prove a grandparent, probably you can like do it with the family, right? Someone in the family's got something that you could put together,
Somebody's got grandma's birth certificate. Somebody's got
right?
it.
Someone's
Yeah.
got it. Like an aunt might have it or something. Like someone's got it. If you have to dig
Box of
deeper
papers in
though,
the attic.
yeah, it's in a dusty box somewhere for sure. But if you have to dig deeper, you got to go into some archives. We've got, links and resources for that. So again, we can't do the work for you, but we can guide you to someone who can support. Or a lot of these things you just submit yourself. You submit like a request to the government and you just have to wait for the government to literally dig through their dusty archives and tell you what they have in terms of certificates, marriage, and things like that. This has been great. Thank you so much, Deandra. Thank you to everyone listening. And if you want more, let us know because I know there's a lot of, still questions around this. It's quite exciting, but we will
Yeah.
be back next time.
Yeah. Send us your questions. If there are questions that we haven't covered that you think of after, send us your questions and we're happy to do another episode on this and dig a little deeper. And hopefully in a few months, we've got one of you here to tell us your story of getting your Canadian passport through citizenship by descent.
Yeah, can't wait. All right, we'll see you next time.
See you next time.